Please like, comment, and subscribe to Pascan Podcasts. It really helps the channel. All right, ready for a deep dive into a topic that's both fascinating and a bit spooky.
Oh, spooky for sure.
Time slips and portals. We're talking about those strange moments where, the boundaries of time and space seem to blur. And people report, experiencing something truly out of the ordinary.
Definitely captures the imagination, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, the idea that we might just, stumble into a different era or even another dimension.
Yeah.
It's intriguing and unsettling at the same time.
It is. It is. And what's really interesting is that we have a stack of real-life accounts, along with some explorations of potential explanations from folks who claim to have experienced these phenomena firsthand.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack the most intriguing stories, explore possible explanations, and maybe even leave you pondering the mysteries of time and space.
Sounds like a plan. I'm ready. It's always exciting to delve into these topics where the line between reality and the unexplained gets a little fuzzy.
A little fuzzy, yeah. All right, let's start with a quick definition.
Okay.
When we talk about time slips, we're referring to those spontaneous, uncontrolled jumps to a different time period. It's like suddenly finding yourself in the past, experiencing a different era firsthand.
Right. And then there are portals, which are more like gateways or passages to other dimensions or timelines. Think of them as doorways to entirely different realities.
Okay, so we've got our definition straight.
Got it.
But before we jump into the modern accounts, I think it's worth noting that this concept of time distortion or travel to other realms, it isn't exactly new.
No.
Ancient myths and legends are full of these kinds of stories.
Absolutely.
I mean, take, for example, the Japanese folk tale of Warashi Mataro, who visits an undersea palace and returns to find centuries have passed on land. Or the Celtic mythology of the other world, a realm existing alongside our own, but accessible only through certain magical gateways. It's like these ancient tales show that humanity has been grappling with this idea of distorted time and alternate realities for a long, long time. It seems to be a universal fascination.
I think it speaks to a deep curiosity about the nature of reality itself. We humans are always looking for ways to explain the unknown, make sense of the world around us. And these stories, whether they're ancient myths or modern accounts, they offer a glimpse into the possibility that there's more to the universe than we can see or understand.
Okay, so enough of the ancient stuff.
Yeah, let's
dive into some real-life accounts.
Let's do it.
One of the most compelling stories in our source material is the Versailles time slip.
Okay.
Involves two English women visiting the Palace of Versailles. Back in 1901, they were walking through the gardens when they claimed they suddenly encountered figures dressed in 18th century clothing.
And what makes this account so intriguing is the level of detail. The women described the figure's attire with remarkable accuracy. They even noted specific details that later research confirmed were authentic to the period. They even believed they might have glimpsed Marie Antoinette herself.
Wow.
I know.
And they also described this strange shift in the atmosphere, like everything went quiet and still.
It's like they stepped into a bubble of the past. And what's even more interesting is that, there were no historical reenactments or events taking place at Versailles that day that could explain their experience.
Yeah, that's what makes it so compelling, isn't it? It wasn't just a vague feeling of being out of place. They had very specific observations that they couldn't have known about otherwise.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if they somehow slipped into a different layer of time.
Yeah, it does. Okay, next up we have Liverpool's Bold Street anomaly.
Okay.
Now, this one's particularly interesting because it involves multiple accounts of people experiencing a similar phenomena in the same location.
Bold Street's this bustling shopping street in Liverpool.
But
apparently, it's also a hotspot for temporal weirdness.
It seems so, doesn't it? There are numerous reports of people just stepping onto Bold Street and suddenly finding themselves transported back to the mid-20th century, or even earlier. It's almost as if the street itself is a gateway to the past.
Yeah, like a portal, almost.
Right.
For example, there's the account of Frank, who was walking down Bold Street in the 1990s when he suddenly found himself surrounded by 1950s cars and storefronts. He described the experience as incredibly vivid and realistic, and he even spoke to a shopkeeper who seemed completely oblivious to the fact that, he was from a different era.
Yeah.
And then there's Imogen's story. She was walking down Bold Street in the 2000s and claimed she was suddenly surrounded by horse-drawn carriages and people in Victorian attire. It's almost like specific spots on Bold Street are prone to these temporal disturbances.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, the
But there's something about
energy or something.
yeah, the energy of the place, or maybe or the layout. Yeah.
Or even, like, what was there before, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, if there was something significant there before, maybe it's imprinted on the location or something.
Right, right. You know, what I find fascinating about these accounts is that they're not just isolated incidents. There seems to be a pattern here, a recurring phenomenon associated with a specific location. It's like Bold Street is a crack in time, and every now and then it opens up to let someone through.
The recurring nature of these experiences in specific locations like Bold Street, that is one of the most intriguing aspects of time slip phenomena. It does raise the question of whether certain places might be more susceptible to these temporal disturbances than others.
Okay, before we get too lost on Bold Street,
Okay.
let's move on to the Vanishing Hotel.
Right.
This one's a real head-scratcher.
Oh, really?
It involves two couples on a road trip in the 1970s who stumbled upon a hotel that seemed completely out of time.
Interesting. What was it like?
Well, they described it as an old-fashioned grand hotel.
Yeah.
You know, the kind you might see in a historical drama.
Right.
It had an old-world charm.
Hmm.
And the staff wore, vintage uniforms.
Yeah.
Everything about it just screamed early 20th century. But here's this twist.
Okay.
When they tried to find the hotel again later,
Yeah.
it was completely gone. There was no trace of it, no one in the area who remembered it, and no records of a hotel ever existing in that location. It was like it vanished into thin air.
So it's not just about time slips then,
Yeah.
but potentially, about, I don't know, places, buildings, things like that.
Yeah, disappearing. Yeah.
Disappearing buildings and locations adds another layer of mystery to these accounts. It suggests not just shifts in time, but potentially in the fabric of reality itself.
Right. Oh, hold on. My brain is starting to hurt.
Okay.
Let's take a breath and move on to
All right.
the mystery of Kendall's post office. This one involves a woman named Claire who walked into a post office in the 1980s, and she felt like she'd stepped back in time. She described the workers wearing old-fashioned uniforms using antique equipment. The whole place had this distinctly Victorian-era feel.
Yeah.
But when she returned later, it was a completely modern post office.
Whoa.
And get this, her description of the old-fashioned post office matched historical records of its appearance from over a century prior.
Really?
Yeah, it was as if she'd briefly glimpsed the building in a previous incarnation.
What's striking in Claire's account is the specificity of her observations. She wasn't just noticing a general old-fashioned vibe. She could describe details that matched historical records of the post office from a century prior. This level of detail makes it harder to dismiss as, mere imagination.
Okay, this next one leads a bit more into folklore, but it's still fascinating.
All right.
The Green Children of Woolpit. This tale dates back to 12th century England, and it involves these two children with green skin who appeared in the village of Woolpit.
Green skin.
Green skin, yeah.
Huh.
The children, they spoke an unknown language and claimed to come from a subterranean world called St. Martin's Land.
A subterranean world.
Yeah, like underground.
Wow.
While it's, likely a folktale or legend, it's intriguing that it incorporates elements of portals and alternate dimensions.
It is. And it also raises questions about how we perceive and interpret reality. What if these children were simply from a remote region with unusual customs? Or environmental factors that affected their appearance? The story highlights how our interpretations of events are shaped by our own cultural and historical context.
Right. Okay, now we're moving into some truly mind-bending territory.
Okay, I'm ready.
With the Air Marshal's experience.
Yeah.
This account involves a British air marshal who was flying over the English Channel in the 1970s, and his plane encountered something truly bizarre.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, he described flying into this swirling vortex of light and sound. His instruments went haywire, and time seemed to distort. When they emerged from the vortex, they had traveled hundreds of miles off course in an impossibly short time.
So, they went through some kind of...
So, they passed through some kind of temporal anomaly, a rift in space-time that, propelled them forward, in both distance and time.
Right. This account, if we take it at face value, introduces the idea of sky portals, or naturally occurring wormholes. Could there be areas in the atmosphere or perhaps specific atmospheric conditions that create temporary distortions in spacetime?
Hmm, yeah. Okay, buckle up for another head-spinning story.
Right.
The ghost in Gettysburg.
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg. As you know, it's a site of significant historical events,
Yeah.
particularly the famous Civil War battle.
Yeah.
But it's also a place where people report some truly strange experiences.
Like what?
Well, Gettysburg is, it's steeped in history, and some might say the residual energy of those past events.
Right, right.
There are numerous accounts of tourists and reenactors seeing soldiers in period uniforms who vanish into thin air.
Like actually seeing like full-on soldiers.
Yeah. And it's not just like fleeting glimpses. Some people claim to have witnessed entire Civil War skirmishes with no reenactors in sight.
Wow.
It's as if they're catching glimpses of the past bleeding into the present.
Almost like echoes, yeah.
Echoes, yeah.
It's both fascinating and a bit eerie, isn't it?
It is.
Gettysburg, as a site of intense historical significance and emotional energy, it might be a prime location for temporal disturbances. If we consider the possibility that, like, intense emotions or significant events could somehow imprint on a location, it might explain why some places seem to attract these phenomena.
Right. Almost like echoes of the past bleeding into the present. It's both fascinating and a bit eerie, isn't it? Okay, so we've explored some really compelling accounts of potential time slips and portals.
We have.
But now let's shift gears and delve into the realm of conspiracy theories.
Oh, buckle up, because this is where things get really interesting. Time slips and portals have become a breeding ground for all sorts of speculation, from government cover-ups and secret experiments to hidden agendas and even extraterrestrial involvement.
Right, we're talking about those theories that make you raise an eyebrow and say, that's a bit out there, but what if?
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of the most prominent conspiracy theories surrounding time travel and portals. Keep in mind that these are highly speculative and often lack concrete evidence.
Exactly. It's important to approach these theories with a healthy dose of skepticism, but they're still fascinating to explore. One of the most well-known conspiracy theories is the Montauk Project. This theory alleges that the government conducted secret experiments in time travel, psychological warfare, and interdimensional exploration at a decommissioned military base in Montauk, New York.
Weren't there stories about kids being abducted and subjected to these experiments, forced to tap into some kind of psychic power to manipulate time? It all sounds a bit like a sci-fi horror movie.
There are certainly some disturbing and unsettling elements to the stories surrounding the Montauk Project. However, it's important to note that these accounts are largely anecdotal and haven't been officially substantiated. But, the sheer volume of these stories and the consistency of certain details have kept this particular conspiracy theory alive and well.
Right, like that old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, so maybe the Montauk Project is a bit far-fetched. But what about CERN and the Large Hadron Collider?
Ah, yes.
That's a real scientific facility, right?
Absolutely. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is a massive and incredibly complex piece of scientific equipment. It's designed to smash particles together at incredibly high speeds. The goal is to study the fundamental building blocks of the universe. But some theorists suggest these high-energy collisions could have unintended consequences, like, accidentally ripping holes in the fabric of space-time.
So basically, they could accidentally open a doorway to who knows where, unleashing something that into our world. That's some serious sci-fi stuff right there.
It's certainly a dramatic image, isn't it? But scientists at CERN have repeatedly dismissed these claims as pure science fiction. They argue that the energy levels involved in their experiments, while high, are still orders of magnitude lower than what would theoretically be needed to create such a phenomenon.
Okay, so we can probably rule out accidental interdimensional invasions, at least for now. Phew. But what about the infamous Philadelphia experiment? That one's been around forever. And it always makes me think of sailors merging with the hull of a ship. Not a pleasant image.
Ah, yes. The legendary tale of the USS Eldridge. It's a classic conspiracy theory that supposedly took place in 1943. The story goes that the U.S. Navy was experimenting with a technology to make ships invisible to radar. But, something went wrong.
Uh-oh.
And the Eldridge was not only rendered invisible, but also transported through time and space.
There are accounts of crew members being fused with the ship's metal, others vanishing entirely, and reports of the ship appearing in a different location, hundreds of miles away, before reappearing in Philadelphia moments later. It's all very bizarre and unsettling, even if it is just a tall tale.
Despite the lack of any official confirmation or credible evidence, the Philadelphia experiment continues to capture the imagination. Perhaps it's the blend of science, military secrecy, and, the unsettling nature of the alleged outcomes that make it such an enduring piece of folklore.
It definitely plays into our fears about unchecked scientific ambition and the potential for unintended consequences. Okay, so we've covered government experiments gone wrong, but what about those theories about secret locations like Area 51? Is the government really hiding time travel technology out in the Nevada desert?
Area 51 is synonymous with government secrecy and conspiracy theories, particularly those involving UFOs and extraterrestrial technology. But some theories extend that secrecy to encompass research into time travel and dimensional manipulation. I mean, the fact that the government kept the existence of Area 51 secret for so long naturally fuels speculation.
Right. It's like a blank canvas for our wildest theories. I can just imagine a top-secret facility, deep underground. Scientists huddled around, glowing portals, tweaking dials, and pulling levers to send people on missions through time.
It certainly fuels the imagination, and while the existence of Area 51 itself is no longer disputed, the true nature of the activities conducted there remains classified. This lack of transparency, combined with the facility's remote location and tight security, naturally breeds speculation.
Okay, let's move from secret government facilities to ancient wonders of the world. There are theories out there that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge and technologies far beyond what we currently understand, and that structures like Stonehenge or the pyramids were built to act as gateways to other dimensions.
When you look at the precision and scale of ancient structures like the pyramids of Giza or Stonehenge, it's easy to see why people might speculate about their true purpose.
Yeah.
How did they manage to construct these massive monuments with such accuracy, using the technology supposedly available at the time? It makes you wonder if they weren't just tombs or ceremonial sites, but served some other, more profound function.
The pyramids, in particular, are just mind-blowing. The sheer effort required to construct them is staggering. And the fact that many of these ancient sites are aligned with celestial bodies or specific points on the Earth's energy grid further fuels speculation about their potential connection to, forces beyond our current understanding.
Right, and the fact that we still don't fully understand the purpose of these structures leaves room for speculation and alternative theories.
Okay, before we get too lost in the world of ancient aliens and cosmic energy, let's talk about something a bit more contemporary, the Mandela effect. This one's really weird because it involves large groups of people sharing the same false memories. Could this somehow be related to time slips or dimensional shifts?
The Mandela effect is a fascinating phenomenon that has gained considerable attention in recent years. It's the idea that shared false memories are evidence of, subtle shifts in our reality, possibly due to interference between different timelines or dimensions.
Like, for example, a significant number of people vividly remembering Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, when in reality he was released and lived until 2013. Or people clearly remembering the Berenstain Bears being spelled Berenstein. It's not just one or two people. It's, a large number who share the same incorrect memory.
Exactly. And while there are psychological explanations for false memories, such as confabulation or the spread of misinformation, the sheer scale and consistency of some Mandela effects have led some to theorize that these shared false memories are, like glimpses into slightly altered regions of reality.
Okay, my brain officially needs a break. We've covered a lot of ground here, from historical accounts to wild conspiracy theories. But what does it all mean? Is there any real evidence to support the idea that time slips and portals are anything more than fantasy or misinterpretations of reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While anecdotal accounts are intriguing and conspiracy theories can be entertaining, we have to acknowledge that there's currently no definitive scientific proof to confirm the existence of time slips or portals, as they're commonly understood. However, the lack of concrete evidence doesn't necessarily mean these phenomena don't exist. It simply means we haven't yet developed the tools or the understanding to fully investigate them.
So the mystery remains. But let's not give up hope just yet. There are some potential scientific explanations out there that, while still largely theoretical, offer a glimmer of possibility.
Yeah, it's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But hey, that's what makes these deep dives so much fun. It's all about exploring the unknown, even if we don't come up with all the answers.
I agree, and I think it's important to remember that our understanding of the universe is, constantly evolving. What might seem impossible or purely fantastical today could become accepted science tomorrow?
Right. Like a century ago, the idea of landing on the moon would have seemed like science fiction. Now it's history.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the cultural impact of time slips and portals. I mean, they've been a staple of literature, movies, and TV shows for ages, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Time travel and interdimensional travel have captivated our collective imagination for centuries.
I mean, from classic novels like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine to modern blockbusters like Back to the Future and even TV series like Stranger Things, we just can't get enough of these stories.
We can't, can we? It's
Yeah.
like we're drawn to these stories because they tap into something deep within us. You know, that yearning to explore the unknown, to push the boundaries of what's possible, and maybe even to, like, rewrite history or glimpse into alternate realities.
I think you're right. These stories, whether they're presented as science fiction or fantasy or even historical dramas, they serve as a reminder that our understanding of time and space is still evolving. They encourage us to, question our assumptions and to remain open to the possibility that there might be more to reality than meets the eye.
Right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here: real-life accounts, wild conspiracy theories, and the cultural influence of time slips and portals. Now let's dive into some potential scientific explanations for how these phenomena might actually work.
All right, let's get into the science. One of the most intriguing areas of exploration is quantum physics, which suggests that time might not be as linear and rigid as we perceive it to be. Concepts like wormholes, quantum entanglement, and parallel universes offer potential frameworks for understanding how time slips or portals could occur.
Okay, let's start with wormholes. You know, those theoretical tunnels through space-time that could connect distant points in the universe, or even different dimensions. They sound straight out of science fiction.
They do, don't they? But while they remain largely theoretical, the mathematics of Einstein's theory of general relativity does allow for the possibility of wormholes.
Really?
Yeah, they're like shortcuts through space-time. And some physicists believe they could potentially be used for time travel.
Wow. Okay, and what about quantum entanglement? That's the idea that two particles can be linked, even across vast distances, so that what affects one instantly affects the other.
Right. Precisely. It's a bizarre and counterintuitive phenomenon that has been experimentally verified. And while it doesn't directly explain time travel, it does suggest a deeper interconnectedness between particles, and perhaps even different points in space-time than we currently understand.
It's like those particles are communicating with each other faster than the speed of light, which, according to Einstein, is impossible. Okay, and then there's the mind-boggling concept of parallel universes.
Mm.
The possibility that there are countless other realities existing alongside our own, perhaps with, subtle or even dramatic differences. Could time slips be accidental glimpses into these parallel worlds?
It's certainly a tempting thought. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every quantum measurement or event causes the universe to split into multiple branches, each representing a different outcome. If this interpretation is correct, it implies the existence of, well, an almost infinite number of parallel universes, each slightly different from our own.
Okay, my head is spinning. So we've got wormholes, quantum entanglement, and parallel universes, all mind-blowing concepts that could potentially explain time slips and portals. But are there any more down-to-earth explanations? Something a bit less theoretical physics and a bit more grounded in our everyday experience?
Of course. While some scientists are exploring the edges of theoretical physics, others are looking for answers within the realm of human biology and psychology. For example, neurologists have proposed that certain brain conditions, such as temporal lobe seizures, could trigger experiences that feel like time travel.
So instead of actually traveling through time, it's more like a neurological glitch that creates the perception of being in a different time or place.
Exactly. These seizures can cause vivid hallucinations and distort one's sense of time and reality. And because the temporal lobe is also involved in memory processing, these episodes might involve the recall of past events or the creation of false memories that feel incredibly real.
That makes sense. It's like those moments when you have a sudden intense feeling of déjà vu, like you've lived this exact moment before, even though you haven't.
Precisely. Déjà vu is still largely a mystery, but some neurologists believe it might be a type of mini seizure in the temporal lobe. It's like your brain is momentarily misfiring, creating a sense of familiarity with a situation that is actually new to you.
Are there any other scientific theories that try to make sense of these time-bending experiences.
Some researchers are exploring the possibility that geomagnetic anomalies, unusual fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field might play a role. The idea is that these fluctuations could disrupt human perception, cause hallucinations, or even create temporary distortions in space-time.
Like those areas known for strange occurrences, such as the Bermuda Triangle or the Devil's Sea. I've always been fascinated by those stories of ships and planes disappearing without a trace.
The Bermuda Triangle, in particular, has become synonymous with unexplained phenomena. While many disappearances in that area have been attributed to natural causes like storms or human error, there are still some cases that, defy easy explanation.
So is it possible that these areas are prone to geomagnetic anomalies that somehow cause time slips?
Mhm.
Or even transport objects to other dimensions?
It's a tantalizing idea, isn't it? But as with all these theories, more research is needed to determine if there's a genuine connection between geomagnetic anomalies and these strange occurrences.
Right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of scientific ground here. Quantum physics, neurology, geomagnetic anomalies, all fascinating, but still largely theoretical. But let's not forget about the human factor. Our memories are notoriously unreliable, and our perceptions can be easily influenced. Could it be that at least some of these time slip accounts are simply misinterpretations of reality?
That's a crucial point. Psychologists remind us that human memory is not a perfect recording device. It's a reconstructive process that can be influenced by various factors, including emotions, expectations, and even the way we frame our memories when we recall them.
So a seemingly vivid memory of, stepping into the past could actually be a blend of real experiences, imagined details, and the brain's attempt to make sense of an unusual or unsettling situation.
Exactly. And then there's the power of suggestion. If you're already familiar with stories of time slips in a particular location, you might be more likely to interpret ambiguous sensory experiences as evidence of a time slip.
It's like priming your brain to see what you expect to see, even if it's not really there.
That's a good way to put it. And let's not forget the role of environmental factors. Specific lighting conditions, sounds, smells, or even the architectural style of a place can evoke a sense of being in a different era, even if you're firmly rooted in the present.
It's like those moments when you walk into an antique shop or a historical building and you're instantly transported back in time, even if it's just a feeling.
Precisely. Our senses play a powerful role in shaping our perceptions, and they can easily create a sense of temporal displacement, even if it's not a, genuine time slip.
It's like our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world around us, and sometimes they fill in the gaps with creative interpretations.
Exactly. And the more we learn about the complexities of the human brain and the ways in which our perceptions can be influenced, the more we realize that what we perceive as reality is often a subjective and fluid experience.
So where does that leave us? Are time slips and portals real? Or are they simply products of our imaginations, our hopes and fears, and the quirks of our brains?
That's the question that continues to fascinate and intrigue researchers, paranormal enthusiasts, and, anyone who's ever pondered the mysteries of time and space. And while we may not have definitive answers yet, the journey of exploring these possibilities is itself a rewarding one. Who knows what discoveries await us as we continue to probe the boundaries of our understanding?
Well said. And perhaps the most important takeaway is this. Keep an open mind. Question your assumptions, and never stop exploring the mysteries of the universe. Who knows what we might find just around the corner? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one to finally unlock the secrets of time travel or interdimensional hopping.
Imagine that. What a groundbreaking discovery that would be. But even if we never find definitive proof of time slips or portals, the exploration itself is enriching. It expands our imagination. It challenges our assumptions about reality. And it reminds us that there's always more to learn and discover.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the enigmatic world of time slips and portals. Keep those questions coming. Keep those minds open and keep searching for those missing puzzle pieces. And hey, if you ever stumble upon a portal or experience a time slip, be sure to let us know. And please, please, please like, comment, and subscribe to Past Event Podcasts. It really helps the channel.